This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
As dawn's rosy red fingers caress the hides of these buffalo, I wonder what else is going to happen this morning, what else we might find. I can't wait to experience it. Welcome to your virtual live safari. These buffalo are watching intently some impala just to the left here, who actually surprised them by running and jumping around. These buffalo, the old bulls who don't really feel like doing too much this morning. It's nice and cold. I think they just want to stay nice and warm. Welcome to Pridelands. I am Michael Anderson. Behind the camera is Gert, and we are going to be taking you around this beautiful game reserve on this chilly morning, actually. But for now, we're just going to watch these beautiful buffalo as they warm up as the sun reaches its horizon. As you can see there, the buffaloes are just still lying down in this sparse open woodland. Lots of marula trees that have all dropped their leaves are still chewing their food. They would have been maybe feeding a little bit during the night. It was quite bright. The moon is more than half full. Yes, you're sniffing something in the air, that buffalo on the right. I did have a shower, so it's not me, Gert. So as you can see, the buffaloes are all got very, very dark fur, so they'll sun to hit them, and they'll vary. And then from there, they might head off to Leopard Dam, which is not too far from where we are here. There you see one chewing the cud, as they call it. It just means they've got lots of grass in their bellies that is being chewed again and again in order to get the most amount of delicious nutrients from it. I'm glad I don't have to do that. It's very, very calm this morning. It's been a very still night, the first still night that we had for a few days. So it was quite a relaxing night. So whilst these buffaloes relax in the grass, we'll send you over to Jared, who's also got something relaxing in the grass.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to and Beyond Pindar Private Game Reserve. My name is Jared Dupree, and we've got Marcel behind the camera today. We decided to head out to the last area where the 2 lionesses and 5 cubs were. Didn't have too much hope to find them, but we got lucky. So you can see we've got one of the lionesses busy lying in the long grass over here. And the 5 cubs are around. We have had a brief glimpse of 1 or 2 of them busy playing in the long grass. Now they've gone off to the thicket to my left, and I can just see what looks like the flick of the ear inside this thicket. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get a view with the camera for now. And I haven't seen the other lioness, but I'm assuming she's probably lying a little bit closer to the Wildebeest carcass. So for those who didn't watch yesterday, we with a pride of lions, which currently is 2 lionesses and 5 youngsters here. And 2 days ago, they killed a wildebeest. Now, unfortunately, the wildebeest is in an area where we can't really see or get to. So all we've been able to do is smell it, because 2 or 3 days later, by now, you can definitely smell that the carcass is there. And occasionally, we can hear them feeding. I was sure maybe about a minute ago, I could hear 2 of the youngsters busy fighting over the carcass, because there was a bit of growling and some strange noises coming from that direction. But it seems like this female over here has decided to maybe move away from the carcass and find a more comfortable spot to lie in. I think where the carcass is around a bit of a thicket, so there's going to be lots of branches and thorns on the ground there. So she's just moved off to the open area where there's a bit of a open opening area where it's nice and comfortable. Ooh, Eric. I believe there's an Eric out there whose birthday it is today, and he says that this is a birthday lioness for him. Well, Eric, happy birthday. I hope you have a fantastic birthday today, and thank you for watching Wild Earth on your birthday. Let's hope between all the different properties, we're going to have some nice little gifts and presents for you. Mine to you is I'm hoping these cubs are going to come out and play around Mom. So, Eric, if that happens, know that that is a gift from me. Because I organized it, of course. Alright, so we seem to have quite a lot of lazy animals this morning. It probably is because it's cold. We've had some lazy buffaloes with Mike. We've got some lazy lions now. And let's head over to James, who has some lazy hippos.
This lazy creature is lying in the water because it is like a sleeping bag, a liquid sleeping bag, where the temperature of the water is probably about, I'm going to say 10 degrees, 10 or 12 degrees warmer than the outside air. Hello, good morning. My name is James Henry. On camera today is David.
All right.
Please observe the hippopotamus. As I tell you, if you are under the age of 18, you may send us your questions to the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. This particular picture comes to you from the Gowrie Dam at Juma Private Game Reserve on the western fringes of the Kruger Park, or the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park. I'm not sure what we're allowed to say these days. There it is. So the hippo has got a great big covering of blubber. And what that great big covering of blubber does is provide insulation. And so you and I might get cold in the water, even though it's warmer than the outside temperature, because our interaction with water on the skin is not the same as a hippo's. And so you and I would get cold eventually. You know, when you get in the water, sometimes it feels warmer than outside, but eventually you then get cold. Well, it's not the same for the hippo. Because it is insulated. And then we also have some Egyptian geese. There they are. That said, you know, I think I might be talking rubbish here. Not about the Egyptian geese. Those are definitely Egyptian geese, not martial eagles. If you were to be, let's say you just had a swimming costume on, and you, or what in America is called a bathing suit, if you had either of those things on and you stood on the side of the water versus getting in the water, I think you'd actually get colder being out of the water. And being in the water, you'd still definitely get cold because it's only about 16 degrees or so. But I don't think that if you are outside or inside without some sort of insulation in the form of clothing, like I'm wearing now, I think you'd still get pretty cold. But you'd probably get colder slower in the water. Anybody like to dispute my physics? I'd be very happy to hear it. Good. We're going to go off to the east today, into the rising sun, see what we can find was going on there during the course of the night. Hopefully we'll find some interesting things. In the meantime, let us go back up to Ngala. That is 120 kilometers that way, where he's sitting with some lions.
Good morning, everyone. And yes, indeed, that fluff ball in the screen there is basically the mane of the Birmingham young male lion. So we decided to start the morning here. It's a chilly morning, but weirdly enough, he's been rather quiet. So we heard him last night. Odie is convinced he was actually underneath his tent. So you heard him contact calling very softly. And then this morning we thought we would set out down the Timbavati River and see if we can find any of his tracks crossing. So we found his tracks crossing almost into camp. So we decided to come a little bit further west and actually find him right on the southern bank. And he's been very, very sleepy all morning. So like I said, nice and chilly morning. I am wrapped up very well. But yeah, excited to be here, excited that we found him again. And we're hoping to, just stay here for a little while. See if he does wake up, see if he does contact calls for the rest of the pride. I know Eric and Nikki and Yapi, they're all coming down this eastern boundary, seeing if the pride has crossed back into Anbianingala. But for now, we're going to sit with this gentleman for a little while. He blends in rather well. See, the ears are still up and moving every now and then, just listening for any sound, really. And strangely, where he's lying down is basically right in front of where the Makoti male had the carcass in that big jackalberry right behind him yesterday. So for now, we'll sit here for a while, but I think Jared has already found some line cuts, so you'll be going over to him on Pinda.
So Eric, whose birthday it is today, if you're still watching, as I said to you, I'll have a birthday present for you, and here it is. The cubs have finally come out. Well, that being said, I did have to just quickly change my position a little bit. But so far I can see, there, 4 of the 5 cubs. Oh, look at the back left, 2 of them are busy playing, and then the front 2 of them are busy playing. So there's all 5 there. I don't know if you saw the 2 have now walked out of the screen to the left, but the other 3 are dead center. How fantastic is this? Busy watching the other 2. So where those other 2 have headed off to is the area of where the carcass is. But just looking at the bellies of all these cubs, I'm sure that they're not going to be feeding too much anytime soon. I think that over the last couple of days they've been feeding non-stop and their bellies are nice and full. And typically they go out of screen. Don't want to be filmed. So it is always very normal for this time of the morning, and that's why I wasn't too concerned earlier when we didn't see the cubs or we didn't see too much movement. Oh, here comes one. Is you'll often find as it starts to warm up in the morning, they become a little bit active, particularly now being winter. Wow, that was a big jump. Particularly with it being winter now, the evenings are very cold, so you'll normally find at night they're just huddling up into a little ball to warm up. And now that it's started to warm up, they can get active like they are right now, busy tackling each other. Oh, this is an opportunity to maybe see if we can see if 1 or 2 of them are boys. That one that's lying down to the far left looks like a young male. It is very difficult at this age, at about 3-4 months, which these are probably closer to 4 months. It is quite difficult to see whether they're males or not. But I do think I saw 2 little boys over there. So it'll be interesting to see what the other 3 are. As usual, we're always hoping to have more females than males, because the more females we have, the larger the pride will grow. Well, he just pushed him right off the edge there. Oh, I hope that's not a long drop down. There's a little bit of a riverine down there, and I haven't seen how deep that drop is. But hopefully it's not too far. So, Grumpy Old Man, you say this is part of the small 5. Yeah, maybe we could say this is the baby 5. There is a small 5. And the closest that a lion will get to the small 5 is an ant lion. But, yeah, maybe this is the baby 5. I don't know if you would agree with me, Grumpy Old Man. And with all the big 5, all the little baby 5s are all cute. But I think out of all of them, lions and leopards are probably the cutest of the 5, when they're babies at least. You'll notice that while the others are playing in the background, and the one's still busy watching us. At this stage, they are still quite curious, but for about 2 months or so, 2-3 months of these lion cubs' lives, they never really saw any vehicles. They were always in an area that we couldn't see them. Oh, they're busy playing again. And so it's only over the last week that we've really started to be able to see them, because they've moved away from the rocky areas where they've been denning. And I'm hoping at some point today they might get very curious and walk over and have a look. One started to come over, but then I think got a little bit nervous and ran back to mom. So as usual, this play that they're doing is vitally important for their growth. You can see they're busy tackling each other right now. This is how one day when they're big males, they might fight with other males, fight with each other in the pride over kills. And when one runs away, the other one tackles it from behind. That's how they're going to be taking down prey in the future. Lots of punches to the face. Fortunately, although they've got sharp claws, they're not too long. So they shouldn't really be hurting themselves. Maybe accidentally a little bit of the claw might come out and hook onto the skin of another cub.
So our buffaloes are not as playful as those lovely lion cubs, but they are starting to get up and think about moving. As you can see, this is one of the old bulls, the big, strong old bulls who tends to lead the group. So what they're going to do is once it starts getting warmer, they will start to move and feed into the sunrise. Oh, looking interested towards us. Uh-oh. Sorry about that noise, everyone. Must I just switch it off? Leave it. Okay. So, as you can see, the buffaloes are all around. If you look over to the left there, Gert, these two old bulls seem to be having a bit of a horn locking. Look at that. See these two old bulls that got up first, which might actually end up causing the whole group to start moving off. They're having a little bit of a play session. I think they're just itchy. One of them was scratching itself on a tree earlier. It's a very calm little fight, though. Oh, hi there. Yes, I was looking at you. You are looking very cute. Oh, careful, that's not going to be a horn in the ear. It's going to be kind of uncomfortable. But they are quite gentle with each other, for the most part. These old bulls, oh, never mind. You know, when you say something, they'll obviously do the opposite thing. But what they'll often do is just spend a whole lot of time together, these old bulls, because they can't move as much as the others do. So they tend to just walk along slowly, spending time with each other. As I said, it's like a gentleman's club. You know, all the old guys just enjoying their company. And I love it when they've got the grass in their mouth there. Well, whilst we watch these buffaloes having their little play fight, we'll send you over to Lauren to say good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Djuma Game Reserve. It's very, very chilly here this morning, 9 degrees Celsius and something degrees Fahrenheit, I may have forgotten. However, my name is Lauren and I do have BK on camera this morning, and we have decided to venture west to the western side of our property to see if we can pick up on any signs of movement. And I must say it's the quietest I have seen the west in quite some time. I did a little experiment at one of the junctions. I decided to completely clean the area with my book. BK was laughing, so it's a smooth road. So it's a fresh start. It's a clean slate, literally. And every time we go back now, we can see whose moves, and there has been no movement, not one single track that we could follow. So it's interesting. And I think now I'm going to just loop round south, make sure I'm not missing anything, and then head to Ribbon. I am really not sure why we did not see Ribbon's cubs yesterday. I don't know where they've moved to. I don't know where they've gone. So in order to really unravel the mysteries here, you've got to put the hard work in. So I think we're going, oh, I can see the sun. Please come, sun. I'm not sure if BK will be able to get it. Hold on. I'm going to drive a little bit further forward. Can you get it from here, BK? Maybe I've driven too far. You happy? back of it. He's not happy. Okay. There you go. A big ball of gas in the sky. It's going to stay cold for quite some time, but then hopefully we'll feel its warmth. Lady, you're right, this is stunning. It's the entire circumference that we can see. Depending on where you are on the reserve, you don't always get to see the sun starting to rise at very, very first moment where it pops over the horizon. Bean, you are correct. I feel the same. It rises so quickly. The moment's gone before you know it. And it always feels like it takes longer where you are. It probably doesn't. I think it's just because we pay such close attention here. And you get the most perfect views on the horizon. But it's over so quickly. The same with sunset. Moment gone. Okay. We're going to just stay here a little bit longer and listen, and then bumble on forward to see what we can find.
So speaking about special sunrises, what we decided to do was actually move just a little bit so we can actually watch the sunrise behind this male. You know, it's actually going to be quite gorgeous. It will just light up his mane. But there, where the sun is rising, just beyond the tree line, that is where the tented camp is. So of course, that's where all of us live. Just to give you a quick idea of how close this animal actually is to camp. And it looked like he actually moved through last night. Sorry, we need to wipe the lens every now and then. It's misting up, it's fogging up quite a bit. Don't know if you can hear that, but that's a vulture waking up just to our left. Sounds a bit like a pterodactyl. Very interesting sound. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sunrise. I think today there's not a single cloud in the sky, so it will heat up quite a bit. It'll be interesting to see where he moves to. Of course, a little bit later when it's hotter, he'll definitely move into shade. But for now, he's been very quiet. He's lifted his head once, very briefly, and then straight back to sleep. Christy is commenting that he needs a coalition partner. Stat. Christy, wouldn't that be the dream? Absolutely. But I mean, we were looking at him yesterday, and you know, his shoulders are huge. He's very well developed, very big line. He's limping in the back leg, but you know, I think he could survive. He'd most likely just survive as a scavenger. Of course, it's not the first line to go through this at all. But it is sad to see him walk like that. But he's putting a lot of pressure on it. Okay, it seems like everyone's competing for the best sunrise. So we're going to send you over to James and see how he's doing.
Here is my entry into the competition for the greatest sunrise ever filmed. Strictly speaking, it's David Eastor's entry. He is our camera operator today. Well done, David. Is there a reason you're throwing yourself around on the back of the car like that? Ah, feeling stiff. Fair enough. I think what's also quite nice is the steam coming out of the hippopotamus. Going... catching the light. And the lovely sounds. There's an irritated blacksmith lapwing. Yes, David said to me he thought he could hear some buffalo, and I've just heard them as well. Painful as it is, I must admit that he is correct. They might be coming down here. Means they haven't gone very far from last night. You say this has everything you could ask for a morning. Well, except a croissant stand and some cappuccino, I would agree with you. Oh, it's pretty. I don't know if you can hear the buffalo coming, belching and burping their way along. Hello, Leo. You're 11 years old and want me to hug a tree for you today. Leo, I can try. I mean, you could also do it at home, probably. But yes, I can try and find a tree to hug for your benefit. Right, we're going to head off to see if we can find the buffalo now.
Shh. We have a tiger. I'm just staying quiet for now. It's the same one. It's the same male. In the exact same place. It's the same one. BK and I have seen this tiger every single day. It's right here at this mud wallow. And there's another one. I think it's a pairing. The other one must have been the female. And it's got a broken squint horn, which baffled everyone for a while, and also a tuft of hair. I think it's gone. Yes. Oh, what a lovely, lovely morning sighting. normally is quite relaxed. We'll need to try and see if we can get it later on a little bit more relaxed than this. And this must be its little territorial area. There's a bird beaky. This is the... Oh, no, don't fly away. The African hoopoe. Look at that. It's breakfast time. We're hungry. The mohawk's not quite erect as it normally is. I think we've got a bit of bedhead here. This is one way that the birds will warm up in the morning, get active, get those muscles moving, blood pumping, and of course, go find breakfast, which will be some delicious insect. You can see straight away from that really long, narrow, straight beak that it's insectivorous. I think it's disappeared. Everybody's very busy this morning, including myself. We are on my way to see ribbon. Indigo, yes, cool bird. Completely. Magnificent bird. With feathers that stand up like that, yes. Has to be the coolest. Okay, I'm going to keep going forward and make our way to ribbon, and let's hope she's in the same place as yesterday.
So while the sun is risen everywhere else, it hasn't quite risen here in this little riverine that we're in at the moment. So we're a little bit cold like these lions are. But I do suspect in the next 5 minutes or so, the sun should start to peak over the hillside that is to our east, which is going to be very exciting for all of us. You can see that it's just below the trees at the moment. But hopefully we're going to have a spectacular sunrise. Generally, sunrises are made more spectacular when there are clouds around. But at the moment, we've got a lovely blue-skied morning, which I guess I can't complain too much about. It means there's not going to be any rain in the near future. But unfortunately, these cubs have gone from having a complete party with each other for Eric's birthday to now passed out. Well, we've had one just lift its head up now. Let's see if something's caught his attention. He's lying right on the edge of the cutaway there in the riverbed. Be very careful. His head's hanging over the edge. Hopefully he doesn't get a fright and falls down into the little gully there. So at the moment I can only see three and a bit. Oh, there, 4 now. One's just lifted its head. So what caught their attention is I've just heard off in the distance, but very, very far away, and I think that's why I lifted his head, is a leopard rasping, or what's some of you may know as soaring. And if you haven't heard it before, it is the sound that a leopard makes, just like a lion, to state their territory, but it sounds quite a bit different to that of a lion. It's I don't want to do it too loud, as I might gain the attention of these lion cubs. But that's what I heard off in the distance, and I think that's why those cubs lifted their head. Now, they won't be too concerned about that leopard while the 2 mothers are around. But that being said, is that the females will still be leaving these cubs when they go off to hunt. And during that period of time, even cubs of this age, of around 3-4 months, are very vulnerable to the attack of a big male leopard. And the leopard that we heard rasping now, it does sound like it was a male leopard. A little bit of a longer rasp, a little bit more deeper. So they would be a little bit concerned about that male, but for now he's far away and the 2 mothers are here, so not too much for them to be concerned about. Beverly, that's correct. There is 5 cubs here, but of those, the 5 that we can see at the moment aren't the only cubs in the pride. So the rest of the pride. So at the moment we've got 2 females here and 5 cubs of around 4 months old. There is 2 other females who aren't currently with these 2 who have 4 cubs. And so they're off somewhere at the moment. Actually, some of our colleagues are out busy looking for them, and they'll let us know if they find them. But it's probably going to be another month or 2 until these 2 females introduce these 5 cubs to the rest of the pride. And also, I think particularly because there are juveniles with the other 2 females, so they're going to be a little bit nervous to take these cubs over to the rest of the pride, because the older cubs, who are mostly males, could potentially or accidentally injure these younger cubs. So these 2 females are going to, bide their time, not rush off to join up with the rest of the pride, which will just ensure that these cubs will be old enough to be able to sort of put up a little bit of a fight against their other step brothers and sisters.
So we came back to the crossing. This is pretty much the last spot where the Birmingham Pride was before they actually moved off in an eastern direction off the property. But it's quite cool. Here's the male lion's track, the one we were just with. And if we had to follow it, it goes all the way through the river. There's another track. Across the vehicle tracks over here. And he actually heads straight towards a game path there that goes right into camp. So I think OD, you might actually be able to see the tip of the tent there. Just to give an idea of how wild this place is. It's absolutely amazing. We've also been trying to look for tracks of the Makoti male. See what he's been doing. Has he been around this area? But so far, no luck. I was hoping that maybe after finishing off the bushbuck, he would come to the pool, drink from the pool, and then cross the river onto the northern side, go onto Big Bend. But we usually find him, right about this sort of area. Still very chilly. A bit out of breath now walking in the sand. But yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll actually just continue. Take the riverbed a little bit further and see if we can find any tracks of the pride maybe coming back. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Or maybe even the lioness with her cubs. Maybe she didn't move off the eastern boundary at all. So, fingers crossed. Hope for the best. Maybe we can find them. Odie, ready? I missed the name, but the comment is it's nice to see sensible trousers instead of shorts. I know. Rather. I absolutely agree. Don't tell Nikki that though. But yeah, no, it comes to a point where you just actually have to draw the line and you say, okay, today I'm not going to be silly, I'm going to be comfortable. And of course, that happened to me about a month ago already. Nikki would disagree though. He likes wearing his shorts. So yeah, I think we'll continue back in the river. There's a lot of hyena tracks in this area as well, but of course, with Makoti Mao having a bushbuck carcass there, could have attracted quite a few hyenas to that area. So let's continue in the river, see if they come back. It's quite an easy place to see tracks, but every now and then it's hard to make out whether it's a leopard track or a hyena track because it just makes a dot. Okay, so while we hope for the best, see if this pride has come back, we're going to send you back over to Jared and his pride.
So finally the sun has just peeked over the mountains off to the distance, so it's going to start to warm up things around here. So I'm hoping that might spur these youngsters to wake up. For the last 10 minutes or so, the two mothers who are lying off to the right of these youngsters, a little bit closer to the vehicle, haven't even moved an ear. And these 5 youngsters are pretty much imitating that at the moment. I always find it incredible how well camouflaged these lions can be. Earlier we sat here for about 15 minutes and I could only count 1 female and 5 youngsters. And then maybe 2 meters behind the female that I could see was lying the other female, which is this time of the year with the yellow grass, as you can see with these youngsters, starting to blend in perfectly with the winter grass, which is ideal for them, particularly at this age, because as I mentioned earlier, they are still quite vulnerable to leopards and hyenas. Fortunately for them, the 2 other prides of lions that surround the territory of these lions don't really ever come to where we are here. So there's not too much for them to have to worry about. Now, with these lions having been here for over 2 days now, feeding on a wildebeest carcass, it's probably why they've taken so long, because it's only 2 lionesses and 5 youngsters. And because a large carcass like a wildebeest for 2 lionesses would take, a couple of days to feed on. But I'm sure that today is probably going to be their last day feeding on the carcass. I haven't seen it yet, but 2-3 days for 2 lionesses and 5 youngsters is a pretty decent time to feed on the carcass. And fortunately for them, that the clan of hyena, or the big clan of hyena on the reserve, is quite far away from here. So deer hung, I've seen lions feeding on carcasses, which is about a week and a half old. It was a hippo carcass, and it was probably the worst smell I've ever smelt in my entire life. And it was so rotten that it was during winter, so the carcass didn't dry up or turn into leather as quickly as what it may in summer, but it almost seemed like the meat itself was starting to turn into liquid. That's how rotten it was, and they were still able to eat on it. It will affect their stomachs, and you often will find that when lions feed on carcasses that are pretty old, you'll see that their scat, or known as their dung, their feces, becomes very, very, very runny, but they will still eat on it. The only carnivore that I know of in this area that is sort of fussy with what they feed is cheetah. I've seen cheetah come up to carcasses which are a couple of days old and not feed on it at all. But lions, hyenas, leopards won't mind too much on feeding on old carcasses. I remember a couple of years ago I saw a male lion feeding on a giraffe carcass which was about 6 or 7 days old, and that was in summer, so it rotted very quickly. And he had his head right into the middle of the stomach, and he was feeding on something on the inside. And when he pulled his head out of the stomach cavity, there was just maggots surrounding his mane, and his mane was almost white from all those maggots, which was pretty gross. But if there's meat to eat, they'll grab the opportunity. What you will often find, and like I mentioned earlier, is that when the meat starts to turn to a bit of leather, or let's say the skin becomes more leatherish, which I've seen on giraffe and hippos before, that it's too difficult for them to be able to open up the carcass, because that skin becomes so hard that it's not worth the amount of energy they've got to exert to try and get to meat, and then they end up leaving it. That's a good question. I've never read up on a study that would actually say at what point lions won't feed on a carcass when it's rotten, but in my own experience, they eat on it until it's physically not possible to eat on it. But fortunately for these 5 cubs is that as this carcass starts to rot, they don't necessarily only have to eat on the carcass. At this age, the lion cubs are still drinking milk, so they won't only have to eat this rotten meat, they will still be suckling, and it differs from female to female, but they've probably got another 2 months or so until they're fully weaned off. Alright, so we are going to open the floor up to all the adults. Thank you to all the kiddies who have sent in their wonderful questions and all their good questions. Sorry we weren't able to get to them all, but please do still keep sending in your questions, as we will now open up the floor to all ages. And as I said that, 2 of the youngsters just lifted their heads up, which is... It doesn't seem like they're thinking about doing too much. Probably lifted their head up just to look and listen in my direction. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't flop over shortly.
On this misty morning here at Djuma, I have a very exciting surprise for you all. My morning is absolutely complete. Are you ready? The family's here. Yay! I know many of you will be overjoyed, and I am overjoyed. We're at Philemon's dip den number 3. We definitely have Ribbon, and I think it's in Tima. I haven't had a good look yet. We have 2 little cubbies gnawing on meat. So for all of you who were worried about the cubbies, because I'm not going to lie to you, yesterday I felt uneasy. You shouldn't worry with wildlife. They're resilient. Cubs, including leopard cubs, including lion cubs, they surprise you sometimes. But yesterday I was concerned. I visited, I think, 4 or 5 times, not always live, and I could not see any signs of the cubs. Tracks, smell, audio, nothing. But here we have them, little Bo and Ty. You 2 had me worried. And I think they're nibbling. Oh. That's a little bit too... No, cubby, no. Oh dear. They're fighting over an impala head. Not the most pleasant sight. They're just gnawing. No way are they going to be able to eat a full impala head. But this is the carcass that belonged to... There's James. This is a carcass that belonged to Tandy. Ribbon stole it. And now the cubs have the head. Ugh. That was a bite from Ribbon. Ribbon is very protective over these cubbies. Very, very protective. Samuel, they are 3 months old. We found them on the 27th of March. I'll never forget that date. And I really, truly believe they were just days old, if not a day old. And it's 3 months since then, a little bit over 3 months. So they're developing their spots. They've been introduced to the clan. They're venturing further out. They're obviously getting the taste for meat, but they're still very, very much drinking milk. Milk is the most important sort of thing to them right now in order to get big and strong. BK, can we just do a genital check on this little one on the right? Oh, okay, nope. Forget that. If we can, we're just going to try and zoom in. And I'm also going to use a photo editing app to try and bring out their spot pattern. They're still quite dark in the body. But the oh, I think the impala head is coming back out. Oh, no, this is impala skin. How delightful. Ribbon, your belly is ginormous. She looks pregnant, and she's not, everyone. She is definitely not pregnant. What a wonderful morning. And at least the cubs are out, and it gives me time to look at them. I really want to try and analyse their genitals. I know that sounds really bizarre, I'm aware of that, but I want to try and get a little bit further forward in what sex our cubbies are. They're very mobile now. They're so much stronger. They are eating bits of meat, but it's not a lot. They definitely would not be able to crunch through bones. Well, I am not going anywhere. My morning is complete. We're going to sit here and watch our Juma clan, and as we do that, we're going to send you across to James with some buffalo.
We are sitting with the buffalo herd, the same buffalo herd I think that we had last night, having a drink at Buffelshoek Dam. And they've spent the night on Torchwood, which is the reserve east of us. And they are now making their way back, I think, to the waterhole, same waterhole, to have a drink. They'll probably get there in about an hour or so. Gently grazing through the woodlands here. Quite a few of them. Most of them have crossed already. Let me go back very slightly and get another view of the ones that haven't crossed yet. So they're not sort of making a beeline for the water yet. They'd have been snoozing in the real cold of the dawn. And now as it's warming up a little bit, they'll get up and move. And make their way down to have a drink. There we go. Now we've got them in a flat panic about our presence. I don't understand. Yeah, you see, this is why the lions succeed with them, because their ability to bring logic to bear on a situation is extremely limited. Ooh. There's one behind there that I suspect is going to become a meal for the Nkuhuma pride. It's limping. Shame, that's horrible. One right at the back. They're in excellent condition, they really are. They're big and fat and heavy. Yeah, she's not well. Well, here comes a straggler from behind. Maybe he's being chased by the Nkuhuma pride. Worth waiting here The Nkahuma Pride is nowhere near here, actually, but Talamati Pride's not too far, or wasn't too far yesterday. Let's just see if anything comes from behind the herd. There's a great deal of huffing and puffing through towards the left there. You can see one looking at us. I don't think it's being set upon by a pride of lions, however. I think it would be a lot more distressed than a few huffs and puffs.
Well, Intima has taken some delicious part of the impala. I think it's just the skin. And Intima is Ribbon's oldest daughter. So Intima will act submissive to Ribbon, but they're still both very high ranking now, and they're very, very close. Ribbon has disappeared. I think she's just gone flat in the grass because her belly is weighing her down. And this is Auntie, or big sister. Yes. Half sister. There you go. So there's a lot of trust here. And although this little puppy is trying to suckle from Ribbon, Intima, that's not going to happen. Intima's not lactating, but she's sexually mature now. She's over 3 years old. So Intima could potentially give birth this year. Now, a lot of sort of the behavior that the cubs show and a lot of the sort of abilities that they learn has came from observing mum. So the behavior that mum displays will be passed on through learned behavior. And of course, these two little terrors are very aware that Intima is someone that they can trust. He won't be aware that she is a older half-sister, but mum interacts very closely with her, and therefore the cubs will also behave in a similar manner. Yes, you guys, you had me scared yesterday. Very scared. I don't know why you did that to me. Janet's out, there you go. BK, let's go for it. Oh. Go Beaks, now's your chance. Ah, that looks like a boy to me. We could always get this wrong, but I'm convinced that one's a boy. The pinched tip, the triangular tip, I know it sounds extremely bizarre, is the sign of a penis. A pseudo-penis won't have that triangular pinched tip. It will be the same in shape and size otherwise, but it won't have that triangle at the end because it's not a real functioning penis. Many of you are saying that's a male. Yeah, I really do think I can confirm that one of them is a male. And once we bring out the spot pattern, it'll give us a better sort of indication of who's who. We're saying bow and tie at the minute, but obviously that's just cute little nicknames. And it's still not so easy to pick out who's who. And that's my mission. I've had sort of different feelings about the other one. Sometimes when I look at the other cub, I think, this doesn't look so pinched at the end. This is a girl, but then other times I think it could be a boy. So I'm really still not sure about the other one, but we definitely have one boy. You just look like little hyenas now. Joy, yes, I'm aware that Trishala thought they were both boys, but both boys would make sense to me, just because there was a sort of real lack of battling between these two. There was a real lack of, I I think this little cubby's just discovered that he has something in between his legs. There was a real lack of striving for dominance and battling and aggression between this pair compared to what we've seen in other hyena twin litters. But I'm on the fence on the second one. I'm going to sit on the fence until I make a confirmation. Or maybe if one is a girl and one is a boy, then immediately it's settled. The girl will always be more dominant. So maybe there wasn't so much need to battle it out as youngsters. Maybe it settles very early on because one is a girl. But I'm not sure. I'm going to confirm one boy and I'm going to work on the other one. But we could get it wrong. Ribbon was, as many of you know, Ribbon was thought to be male for a very, very long time. We completely got that one wrong. So I could also be wrong. I'm happy to admit that is really not easy. And the genitals will change. They're very much still developing. I've got a long way to go before they turn into proper hyenas. Now, don't panic, everyone. Ribbon is somewhere, but we can stay at the den with Intima alone. As long as you have an adult, we don't have to leave. But I don't think Ribbon's gone too far. She's not going too far with a belly like that. But as long as the adults don't completely disappear, we can stay with the cubs. Okay. Just going to keep an eye on where the adult goes. If the adults do completely leave the vicinity, we will have to sadly leave. But while I sit and figure it out, we are going to send you across to Dylan to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone, from another superlative day at Swallow Kalahari Reserve. Jean-Dre and myself, Dylan, it's so good having you with, and I hope you all, wherever you are in the world, that you had a really good rest, or whatever you're doing, that you're staying safe and keeping warm. It's a little bit nippy out here this morning, but really not too bad at all. We're back at the meerkats, and like I say, we really don't want to miss the opportunity of seeing these pups come out for the first time. And Jean-Dre and I are kind of like torn between this, like saying, I know we come here every morning, and the temptation is there to actually, well, let's just go do something else, and yeah, it should be okay. It's like one day. But the thing is, we've come so far now with this group. They're becoming so nice and relaxed with us around them. And we're just getting closer and closer and closer to that point where they're going to bring these pups out. So I would be so bleak if we were to go try find something else or do something else this morning and then they come out. So I think we've come this far. Let's just stick it out. Let's just persevere. And I think it's going to be really, really good. Whether it's today or in a couple of days' time, let's have a look. But yeah, just feel free to ask questions as always. I've got a couple other little things that we can show you as we're going. But yeah, chat with us, ask questions. And I really hope all our other colleagues down in the Lowveld and Pinda and that get some brilliant sightings this morning. I'm sure they will. I was a little bit worried about the breeze this morning. There was quite a breeze picking up this morning. McCullough says they're going to call me Mr. Meerkat. I think those meerkats are better dressed and have better manners than me. So, and they're obviously way sharper as well. But you can see compared to yesterday, remember there wasn't a breath of wind yesterday. You can see there's some movement on the plants. So, but it's not cold. I mean, I think it was 3 or 4 degrees this morning, if I remember correctly, something around that. So the burrows that I think they're going to be, these, not this large one in front of me. There's a bit of activity here, but not too much, but that one just behind it and the one to the right over there. And just out of interest, and again, it's one of these scents on there that I can't share with you, but we can actually smell there's a fire somewhere, but it's not close by. I think it's probably hundreds of kilometers away, but there's a lovely little soft haze in there, and the scent of wood smoke and grass. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful classic African scent that we have out here this morning. I'm just going to stick with these meerkats and wait for them to wake up.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
A gang. We are trying to find our gang of mother and son. David on camera reckons he spotted a track that looks fresh-ish. Was this the track you meant, David?
Is it going that way? Or this way?
Yes, it's going that way.
Oh, there's another one going this way then.
Yeah.
Just around there somewhere.
These tracks are the ones that we had 2 days ago coming in here to fetch old, I nearly used the name that Torchwood's given him, but I won't do that in order to save the servers at Twitter. Now, I think all of this stuff I've seen here yesterday, Dov. A lace and a lake. It is such a very, very pretty morning, though. Right. We'll carry on if it's all the same to you, David.
Yes.
Yes? Plug myself in. Wrong way. Do it again. Put my blankie on my legs. Well, we have been deeply unsuccessful in finding any cubs this morning, but Jared has not.
So we've been very fortunate. One of the adult females just picked the carcass up out of the thicket and dragged it a little bit more into the open. I'm not sure why she did it, but it has spurred the youngsters, or at least one of the youngsters, to come and feed. Shame. Look how it's trying to rip and tear at that meat. Its teeth aren't quite sharp enough yet to do it with ease. Its jaw's not strong enough. So it is going to be a little bit of a battle. Looks like it's got a decent piece of meat there that it's trying to feed on. Have a closer look with my binoculars. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to actually see exactly what it's feeding on. It looks like it might be feeding on the meat around the front shoulder, where there will be quite a lot of meat on this wildebeest. You'll see the ribs of the wildebeest is pretty much where it's feeding now. Oh, there's some beautiful light beams coming off and hitting the eyes of that cub. How beautiful is that? Not often you would say that while something's feeding that it looks beautiful, but so you probably can't really see it at the moment, but oh, here comes another cub. The mother's off behind them, probably waiting for all the cubs to have their turn to feed again, and then I'm sure she's going to get up and start to feed. It is unfortunately just out of view, but one of the youngsters is lying right up against the mother, hoping that she's going to groom. Miva, it is most certainly a lot of meat for the cubs. They're not going to eat it solely. So there is 2 adult females here and 5 young cubs. And between the 7 of them, they're all going to have turns to feed. Obviously, the 2 adults will feed on much more of this carcass than what they will. And them feeding is actually very important for these poor little cubs while they try and feed. Is when the adults come to feed, they're going to open up the carcass more, sort of pull the hide back, exposing that meat. Cutting and tearing at the meat will leave some other areas where you can see this youngster now is trying to feed on. Here comes, oh, there's two of them just to the left. Anna Marie, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure about the milk teeth of lion cubs. So I'll have to research that to see if and how many milk teeth lion cubs have. I know that an adult lion's got around, I think it's 32 teeth. But milk teeth, unfortunately, Anna Marie, I'm not too sure about. But Anna Marie, if they were to have milk teeth, they would be pretty useless right now because they wouldn't help too much while feeding on the carcass. You can see at the moment the cub's trying to use its carnassial shears. So you've seen the adults feed when they would cut away at the hide and the meat. You can see that that youngster was trying to use those carnassials, but they're just not sharp enough yet, and probably large and sharp enough yet to be able to cut away at that meat. So at this stage they're using their incisors more so than anything to just tear at the meat that they can get hold of. Just going to keep quiet for a minute or two because you can actually hear the cub busy feeding, which is quite spectacular. Apologies, there is a vehicle driving past on the road, which would be muffling the sound of these cubs busy feeding. But just before I said that, there was a bit of groaning happening where you could hear two of the cubs playing off to the left, busy groaning while playing with each other. But I think if we just wait 20 seconds, this vehicle will drive past, and we should be able to get good audio of what looks like now two cubs busy feeding. In fact, three cubs. There's one off to the left in the thicket that looks like it could be feeding as well. So if you pan a little left, you might be able to see there's a cub approaching the vehicle. You might just be behind a thicket, but have a look there. There's one of the cubs was a little bit curious and started to approach the vehicle. They're currently probably about 10 meters from where we are now, and maybe that's the distance that he feels, or he or she feels most comfortable with us. But I'm sure in the next coming weeks we might have them be a little bit more curious and come over and have a closer look. That sound that you heard was one of the cubs, I think, bit the other one on its rear end and it hurt. And it went, wow, because it hurt.
So we checked the river a little bit around, and no luck. No tracks of the pride, no tracks of a leopard there, well, no fresh tracks. So we decided to actually make our way back to the Birmingham young male, see if maybe he's gotten up. You know, it's warming up a lot slower than I was hoping. But I think it's also the driving into, well, the wind chill that's cooling us down. Though I have taken off the scarf and the gloves, so must be winning. Also, Nikki, Eric and Yapi, they checked the whole eastern boundary all the way down, and no tracks of the pride on that side. Although what could have happened is they could have walked south and just crossed the eastern boundary more south from where they checked. So maybe in the afternoon, that would be our plan. But for now, I want to head back to the Birmingham young male. Oh, had a bit of a tongue twister there. Go see if he's up and walking around or if he's still lying down right on the southern bank where we left him. Quiet morning though, no elephants, no even sound of elephants. There's a lot of elephant tracks in the river, but usually this is where you would find them. Just not today. Though I must say we've not traveled even a kilometer away from camp, really. I love this time of year though, where the grass is so dry. All the trees are starting to discolor. A lot of them have actually lost their leaves. But the other day we went further up north towards the safari lodge, and the Mapani is actually discoloring. So absolutely stunning. Very, very nice autumn colors, even though it's midwinter. Okay, so we'll be dipping into the river in the next minute or so, and then we turn right again, right past camp, then straight back to the mail line. Okay. Yeah, so I think give us a bit of time, and then fingers crossed the mail didn't move too much, otherwise we're going to have to track him down. But for now, we're going to send you back to Nuchal Ligament and Dylan, also warming up with his meerkats.
So the little meerkats have just come out now. The temperature, you know, it was kind of very, very mild this morning. There's no frost. Yesterday there was some frost here. So there's nothing like that this morning. But like I just mentioned earlier, there's this absolutely fantastic scent of wood smoke in the air. So somewhere far, far, far away from us, there is a fire somewhere. I have no idea where it is, but it is just a absolutely fantastic morning out here. Wow. We may even pan across to the hills just now, and you can actually see the haze that's been created by the smoke. It's so beautiful, but we'll do that later. And again, this little alpha female, first one out of the burrow, just doing her normal routine checks. Everything's fine, everything's safe, no predators. Sharon has just asked if I can show you the height of the meerkat by measuring it on my arm. So I'll go from the hand down here. So they stand about that high. So let's say probably about 30 centimeters, give or take. That's excluding the tail in it. So yeah, it's probably about a ballpark figure there, Sharon. I think we're very close to having these pups coming out. And it could be, like I say, I'm going to guess another couple of days, but I really don't want to take that chance. Butterfly, I totally agree with you. Butterfly says it's meerkat magic. And they are magic little animals, eh? Yes, they are. Always love the way they kind of cock their arms at the wrist like that. Sweet little things, eh? Yes. And imagine how snug it must be down those burrows at night. You got all 6 of these larger ones sitting down there with the little pups, like all just piled on top of one another. Yes, that must be a little bundle of joy downstairs, eh? I think we're just gonna stick here and wait until the others come out, and hopefully those pups will emerge as well.
So I think I'm going to carry on from where I left off. There's still some lovely sounds coming from these cubs busy feeding and groaning and complaining, and beautiful birds calling off in the distance. So I'm just going to give it another minute or two just for you all to just have an opportunity to listen to the wonderful sounds of nature. Snazzy, so lion cubs will be introduced to meat for the first time at about a month and a half, 2 months old. Generally before that, the females aren't moving them around too much of a distance, and there's probably 2 reasons why they wouldn't introduce the cubs at a younger age. One is that they probably wouldn't have the teeth and jaw strength capability to be able to feed on the meat. But 2, it's very risky for the mothers to walk their cubs long distances to take them to carcasses. And then if they are feeding on a carcass and let's say another predator comes in and they all need to run at about a month and a half, they're probably still just a little bit too small to be able to try their best to get away. So at that stage, they're very vulnerable, and milk is sufficient enough for them to be able to get enough nutrients. But at about 2 months, probably the earliest, but you're regularly at about 3 now, at this age now, 3-4 months old, they'll be taking them from carcass to carcass. They have a very good mix of meat and milk diet at this age. It's very difficult when you're watching animals to not be distracted by birds. Myself, you have a look up on that dead tree over there. You'll see there is one of the kingfishers, a brown hooded kingfisher. And although it is called a kingfisher, this particular species of kingfisher doesn't actually eat fish. They are insectivores, so they eat insects. And I wonder if that particular bird is thinking there's lions around, there's a carcass, maybe it's going to attract flies. And although I do eat lots of different species of insects, I might eat flies. And so I wonder if that's not why this particular kingfisher is here at the moment. But you'll see the direction that he's busy facing at the moment is eastwards, and it's probably just to warm up. It was a cold evening last night, and its feathers would be wet from the morning dew, and so it's just warming up its body with the sun rising over our backs in the east. So for those birders who are out there who have been listening, you may have heard the Birchall's cuckoo calling off in the distance. There's been some Sticulars calling, some barbets. I heard a crested barbet calling a little bit earlier. So lots of wonderful birds busy calling at the moment.
We did have some baboons for you. Ah, there we go. They're disappearing fast, I'm afraid. Sitting up on the embankment of the dry riverbed that is the Mulawati. And there was actually a magnificent male kudu as well. And baboons are known to associate with many different herbivores, from impala to kudu, bushbuck. And that is, of course, because they both benefit from one another. I can still see them playing. Okay, BK, I'm going to go forward. Or not. Oh, you got one. I see you. They're just sitting up on this tree. I'm still going to go forward, BK, and see if we can get a better view. We've lost a kudu, I'm afraid. Ah, there's a kudu. Female. See it swing. They are fast movers. It's not easy to keep up with a troop of baboon, that's for sure. But yes, impala especially, not always kudu, but impala and baboons benefit from one another because they can react to one another's alarm calls. They're not a threat. They're not going to steal one another's dinner, but they can react to one another's alarm calls. And kudu actually pick up the scraps of fruit and shoots that baboons pick up and eat and leave behind, or that they knock out of trees. You can see how the baboons jump around the trees here. So kudu know this, and they hang around baboons to try and pick up whatever the baboons leave behind. Civets also do the same, believe it or not. Civets and bushbuck. Bushbuck we don't see too often on drive, but we have them in our camp. We see them every day in camp. Now that Hosanna's not here, the populations are growing quite steadily. Look, you're saying this is a monkey business. Ha ha. We're on fire with the dad jokes. Absolutely, that's what the kudu's thinking. This guy's a monkey's business. Love it. Now, we had a troop of baboons in the Mulwati yesterday as well. I wonder if it's the same troop. Because it's winter, they're spending time in this dry riverbed. Okay, we are going to continue our river cruise without the water, but for now we're going to send you across to James with the elephant.
Here we have got a herd of elephants in some strange, slightly, I'd say, disconcerting light, because there's a big front that's just pulled in overhead here. I think, unfortunately, our crisp, clear, sunny morning is about to turn fairly cold and cloudy. That's not going to affect the animals. Well, it will, but not our viewing of them. Quite a few elephants around here. We haven't got too close to them because we did try earlier and they kind of moved away. They didn't seem that relaxed. But they seem okay now. I'm just going to go forward, Dov. There's a group of them just a bit further forward, moving quite quickly. I'm not sure why they should be moving quite so quickly. Lovely colours this morning now, with the grey of the elephants and the golds and coppers, oranges, of the winter vegetation. Where's going to be best? I think just over here. There's some little ones. Not sure why they seem so unsettled. Karen, I do have one pair of long pants ready. I haven't had cause to use it yet. Them yet. It's not the best elephant view we've ever had, is it, David? Well, I'll try and do better. They just did seem disinclined to be around us earlier on. Maybe they have changed their point of view now. Well, there are some there. All this one in front of us. I'm not going to bash over this log. And there's a little one in front as well. So hear the call of the black-headed oriole. Cree! Cree! Right, well, let's go back up to Ngala, where we have got a male lion.
And he's still very sleepy. What he's actually done is he's now just spread himself out, so he's not curled into a ball anymore. Which actually made him harder to spot this time around, because we came around the bend and there were a whole bunch of impala in the river very close by, just heading upwards. And so now you can see they've actually moved a little bit further away from the lion, so they have no idea that this lion is here, and he's also not really disturbed by them at all. So they're just skittishly looking around every now and then. But so he's lucky because the wind is actually blowing from this herd of impala towards him, and not the other way around. If it was the other way around, they would alarm call just by the scent of this guy. But for now, he looks very, very relaxed, very chilled. And I think we're just going to let him be, let him relax for the rest of the day. We might check on him again this afternoon. So we've been trying to determine what his belly looks like. And he doesn't look hungry. None of his ribs are sticking out. It looks like he might have had a meal in the last day or two. So not too much to worry about there. But like I said, very relaxed. Breathing very nice and slowly. And not an issue in the world. Although that fly is irritating his ear. It's the only movement you can see. Emma's saying he's basically one with the grass at this point. He is, absolutely. If it wasn't really for the mane, you'd really struggle to see him. They blend in so well. I was hoping that it would be warmer by now, and this would, almost force him to move into the shade. See their owns zoomed out. You can basically not see him at all. If you didn't know he was there, it'd be a lot tougher. But I was hoping with it getting warmer, he would move into shade, and now it's just not actually warming up. I mean, the sun's out, but it's not very hot at all. But one very lazy cat. I think we'll let him be. We'll, leave him for this morning and then continue driving around, see if we can find anything else
So there's 3 of them up now, and there's a 4th one just sticking its head out. So they are starting to warm up really, really nicely. And yesterday they actually went foraging in an easterly direction. And the past couple of days they've actually been going in the opposite side. So we've chatted about a little bit about this before in terms of the foraging pattern will, in a huge, well, in all ways, will be determined really by the availability of food. So, you know, if they've worked through an area consistently over the past couple of days, they're very likely to actually just change direction. And not because there's no food left there, but the amount of energy that then goes into trying to find more food in that area will become progressively more difficult, and then they'll start swinging. And just out of interest, if you look at things like wild dog hunting, and it's a really bad comparison, wild dogs and meerkats, but if you look at that foraging strategy there, wild dogs will typically operate in one area for a couple of days, and then you find that the game starts just becoming super alert to the presence of the pack, and then they move. So the comparison that I'm making there is that foraging, that optimal foraging capacity starts going down the longer predator has been operating in a particular area. There are very, very different scenarios as well. You can get a thing like a Cape Cobra that we've seen and we've spoken about going into a sociable weaver nest in the breeding season. Now, that snake will, you know, the birds don't have any choice. They can't hide exactly. But even then, you know, that snake will clean out those nests and then it'll have to move on to something else. So again, that foraging optimal capacity starts dropping. So there's different ways that things get by. But these meerkats, like I say, they headed east yesterday, and I think they're probably going to head east again today. We said go west, young meerkat, but I think they're going east. Blue has asked a really nice question as well. Will the meerkats come out of their burrows in a particular order in the mornings? So what we've been seeing typically is that it's the alpha female, the dominant female that comes out first. And I think relating that back to the foraging, I think she just is the first one to get up and get going because she needs to start getting sustenance to support the pups, you know, in terms of lactation and that. So I think we've seen if they don't have pups, then you can get other meerkats popping out at different times and that. But at the moment, with this group, the rock stars, it's always the alpha female that's been coming out. Certainly over the past 3 weeks that we've been keeping tabs on them. Remember, again, yesterday we spoke, or the day before we spoke briefly again, the reason I'm not just sitting down in one place is we'll walk up and down. It just really reinforces that habituation process, that there's nothing for them to fear from us. But we're still a good, comfortable distance away. I'm about 12, 13 yards away from them. We can get much closer than this, but we don't need to. There's absolutely no need to go sit right next to these meerkats whatsoever. There's no benefit to us by doing that. And Jean-Ray is about the same distance as me on the other side of them. So, and we took a bit of a gamble by doing this over the past couple of weeks. In that, you know, if we hadn't spent this amount of time and then tried to come view them when the pups were out, then we'd be really starting from you know, the beginning point there. And so we'd rather get them nice and relaxed around our presence. So when the pups come out, all the adults are super chilled. There's 4 out now, and remember there's 6 in this group. Yeah, for those of you saying they're listening to me, they're probably just listening and saying, that's not at all how we work. You've got it all wrong. Okay, well, tell us, share your secrets with us. What does it mean to be a meerkat? There's something that they're actually watching. They're they keep looking down this way, actually past me. So there's something in the distance here that's got their attention every now and again. I can't see what it is. But I mean, their eyesight is exceptionally good. Whoa. And their sense of smell is probably as good as their eyesight. I mean, it's their sense of smell, because they'll be foraging. They're actually just sniffing the ground the whole time. In some ways, not dissimilar to things like an aardvark going. And I just wanted to mention that sorry, I'm getting distracted here, but while we're on sense of smell, we had that incredible aardvark sighting the other day. And what I've noticed about honey badgers and aardvark, when they're digging around and they're sniffing out ants and termites, a honey badger uses the exact same technique that aardvark does. Okay, they're not necessarily going for ants and termites. They're going for anything they can catch, a honey badger. But what they'll do is they'll scratch in the ground a little bit, then they stick their nose into that hole, and they actually expel air into it. And you can see very, very distinctly the sand blowing up like that. And so I think, I don't know what that actually means. I think I think it increases the scent, or the ability for them to absorb that scent better in some ways. That was just interesting, kind of like talking about meerkat sense of smell, and then aardvark, badgers. So you see, there's definitely something way down there that they're looking at. Definitely something there. Now the trick is to actually try to find what it is they're seeing. Yeah, I'm just going to carry on standing and trying to find this. I'll actually grab binoculars and see if I can figure it out.
Except it's nowhere near where it was. Well, news on the wire is that as we were driving along here, I thought to myself, this is going to be a dreadful segment. And then I spotted a leopard walking along here. David said I heard a leopard calling in this direction, sort of, not really in this direction. Anyway, there's Tundi. I think it's Tundi. David, I'm going to give you credit for this, although I must confess it's not where you said she was calling. We'll assume that it's not far off, and that it was your earphones that made the mistake. Yeah, we can move up. I think it's not a bad idea. I must confess that this is kind of... I mean, maybe she's just hunting. I hope she's just hunting. This fastidious marking and calling after yesterday has made me slightly worried, but who knows? I know the night is not the best, David, but it's the best I can do for now. Where's she gone?
She's there.
Oh, there she is. Naturally, behind the trees. I planned for her to climb up onto that log for us. I basically could not have parked in a worse position. There we go. Quite nice colour there. Hi, Tundi. Please would you do your best not to go into Little Gowrie, please? Oh. Unfortunately, that is precisely where she's heading. Let me move quickly, Bob. Maybe get one decent view of her from the other side. before she disappears for good. Literally every rock and every log in the place is in the way. Hello, Tamara. You say she looks great. She don't look half bad, that's for sure. That's it. Go back onto the road. Looks like a little cub. Such a stroke of luck. Any earlier we would have missed her. Slightly later, we may have still got her. Right, this is quite nice. She seems to be heading back up north. So just to explain to you, we're on a corner here. Djuma off to the north, Torchwood to the east, Chitwa to the southeast where we can go, Little Gowrie to the southwest where we can't go. And this is the boundary. She's now on the road, which is nice. Sorry, David, you're going to have to drive. I was hoping that the vehicle would roll a bit. Now, this is quite a nice little spot because we can get off the road. We don't have to just drive behind her. Jordan, she's marking because she's establishing her territory. I mean, it might be that she's feeling threatened by Guchava in this particular area. You know, she's just maintaining her territory. Is that all right, David? You don't sound very enthusiastic with my vehicle placement.
It's okay.
I mean, you're welcome to tell me to put the car somewhere else. Lovely light on her now. I'm not sure what you want me to do with that comment, Emma. Emma's directing this morning. Apparently, Nats says, "Oh, Tundi, I do declare." I'm going to assume it was said in a very southern accent. I do declare. Tundi? Or it will be Tandy. Tandy, I do declare. Where are you going? Oh, don't go in there. So now she's gone into Little Gowrie. We're going to engage in some visual trespassing. Naughty, naughty, naughty. I can't follow her, Emma. This is the last view we're going to get of her. So I would suggest you stay here. But I'll link if you want me to. We've seen her in this tree before. You want to go up? Go up. No. Maybe we'll still have her for a while. Well, this is good news. Oh, it's a special thing that you never get sick of seeing the sight of a leopard cat walking along the road or walking anywhere. I think it's the colour for me. She spotted some waterbuck down there. There's no chance that she's going to kill one. They've skedaddled. I suppose I'd better call this in, hey, David? Hello, High Beyond, you say Tundi's teasing us. No, I think Tundi's totally ignoring us, which is exactly how we want it. Stations, I've located Tundi. She's mobile in a westerly direction along Gari Main from the junction with Chitwa at, I think it's Brumpan, something like that. She's now moving slowly north onto Djuma. Should we do a driving trot, Dave? Yeah. Steady as if we're on rails. It's quite nice. West of Chitakatlan, mobile down towards the Morwati and just inside Djuma. Read by Ruby, when the cub's this age, she'll move away from it on a daily basis sometimes, unless there's a kill. So, you know, the fact that she's not with the cub is, oh, now she's turning around, is totally normal. She's found something that she can smell. Whether it is distasteful to her or not, I'm not sure. Where'd she go, Dave? Around the back?
No, she's still there. I've got her tail.
Oh, so you do. Classic shot. Huh. Oh, I suspect she's found some beef dung. Let's give her 1 minute in that position, then I'll move again. It just makes you realize how many times you've driven straight past a leopard. Let's see where she goes. Now just think about the directions we've seen her move, and think about how she's changed direction every time she's walked off the road. So what she does is she's walked west and then south into a block, and then she turned around and went north again. Now, unless she'd done that on some very soft sand, you'd have assumed and gone to look for tracks in the direction where you had the last ones. And here you can see that she's just moving all over the place. She's over there now. And the temptation is always to look. And she's going to go back out. The temptation is always to look in the direction that the tracks were going, assuming that you'll find the next one. But as you can see, that is a false assumption. All right, we'll carry on following Tundi. You're going to go back up to the Kalahari with the meerkats and Dylan.
So here is something really, really, really cool. Like super, super cool. So this little guy here, we actually just, it's unfortunately dead now. It's dried out, it's moved. So I've just placed it on the sand, but to give you an idea of the size of it, you can see next to my hand there, so it's kind of a golf ball size, kind of. Okay. But look at the design on this. Okay, this is what is called a bird's nest fungus, And I think the name is almost kind of self-explanatory. Not the fungus part, the bird part, bird nest. It creates all these little spore-bearing vesicles over here. And so each one of these will contain millions and millions and millions of spores. So you get a whole range of different species spread across the entire world. But what's cool, and our ones don't do this. These ones are normally buried. You see them kind of like just sticking out the sand like that. That's kind of like all you see of these little ones like that. You know, it's tucked away. But you get some that are actually, and you don't get them here, but you get ones that are in a real cup shape. Oh, okay. We'll be right back.
We have 2 giraffes here, standing not too far away from Gowrie Dam, and they appear to be doing something we call necking, which is giraffe's defense mechanism, I guess, when they swing their neck and crash their ossicones into the other one's rib cage. Now, one is smaller, they're both male, and I think it's a younger boy, so I don't think this is serious. Giraffe necking can be very disturbing. It can lead to death, and the sort of level of violence from such gentle animals I find very difficult to watch. That's how males sort of club one another when they're competing. So they were necking, but I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's more young boy play. But let's keep watching them for now. It's definitely a younger, paler one, and a much bigger, darker one behind. Yeah, this is just play. It's still lovely, just like elephants wrestle. It's not serious. You can see the ossicones, those protrusions on top of the head, they're very bald. And this is because males do exactly that. They bang their heads into one another's rib cage and they lose the hair on top of those ossicones. Oh, there's a duiker in the background, watching them. And play is a really, really important thing for most organisms. There's some great books on it. That play does a lot of things. It encourages let's just stick with mammals just now, but it encourages mammals to learn coordination, to learn their sort of own physical strength, develop the muscles, lots of reasons. But ultimately, science is sort of uncovering the fact that most animals play for fun. Not just your domesticated dogs or your cats or Tlalamba with a ball of dung or giraffes play necking, even fish. Fish have been scientifically proven to do any activity for fun, and they have fun. It's enjoyable. I imagine insects too. I don't think science has got that far. But I think it will cover all groupings of animals. From your mammals to your birds to your reptiles, frogs, fish, insects. They will do specific activities, and there will be really well, there'll be no other reason other than fun. Fun's may be the primary reason. There may be secondary reasons, like these two giraffes I think are having a bit of fun. And the secondary reasons would be maybe the young boy is learning. He's learning from the older boy how to club, how to swing that neck, what force to use. But sometimes when you watch animal activity, the primary reason can just be fun. Faye, I agree with you. It always looks like they're moving in slow motion. And that's because they're really not trying to harm one another. The neck is a very powerful thing in a giraffe, of course, because it's elongated. They still have the same number of vertebrae as we do, and that is 7. But naturally, the vertebrae are much bigger, and there's longer gaps in between. So for a giraffe to really neck another one, they have to sort of gather momentum. They have to use all the power, swing that neck at the correct speed, and knock their head into the other male's rib cage, I guess. And I find it difficult. I find it really, really difficult to watch when it's for real. And the entire neck actually relies on a suspensory ligament, and it's made of, well, elastic tissue and not muscle. So there's a special ligament there that allows them to move their neck. There's a lot of muscle on the underside from the chin to the chest. It's a very powerful wall of muscle. But on the other side, on the top side of a giraffe's neck, there's a huge, huge ligament. It's actually called the Nuchal Ligament, and that's what allows them to be so flexible, yet holding the neck in place. It also allows them to conserve energy. They don't have to engage all the muscles on the underside, the side that we're looking at right now. They don't have to engage those muscles as much to support their weight because the ligament, the flexible ligament, is holding it in place. Okay, I'm going to try and get a little bit closer to these swinging necks, and let's see how much fun these giraffes are going to have.
So the meerkats are, 5 of them are out over there. Some of them are doing their, all their morning ablutions. And again, it seems to be that alpha female that's doing it a lot more than the others, which is just interesting to note. It's the one on the left over there that's kind of like stretching a leg there now. But back to this bird nest fungus. So this one doesn't do it, but you've got some here, globally, that is the coolest design. It's a little cup shape, okay? And then this fruit, like I said, this is dead. You don't have to worry, we're not disturbing anything. It's completely dead. But then these all sit inside a little cup like that. And they're actually designed, that cup shape is designed, so when a raindrop hits it, okay, it actually expels the spores from these fruiting bodies. Such a brilliant design. And those can be actually shot out to over 1 meter distance, and then they'll start growing from there. So these little guys, they're actually feeding. When I say feeding, they're getting their nutrients from decaying plant matter. So out here in the Kalahari, that's mostly likely going to be little bits of woody things, grasses. We've actually got a number of parasites on grasses that grow in this area. So this is just very, very special. And of course, the big question is there with these is, why did the mushroom go to the party? And I think you all know the answer to that. But this is a really, really cool example of one of the different fungus species that we get out here. And we've got lots of different kinds of fungus. And hopefully over the next couple of days, I'll be able to show you some other ones called bracket fungus. Although we're not in the growing season now. The growing season for these is when there's been a lot of rain and the sand is very, very moist. That's when these guys get their little mycelium. In other words, their root systems going, and they start filtering through the sand and looking for. But look at the underside of that. So that base is where all the mycelium will be growing from, and they'll actually be going into decaying plant matter. And they're actually part of the decaying process as well. So it's not that they need the decaying side, they actually help break down dried wood. And there's actually some birds, many of you will know woodpeckers and how this relates to fungus, not necessarily the species. Woodpeckers as whole nesting species. There's some really, really good work that's been done in the United States on woodpeckers as what we call keystone species. Remember, we've mentioned keystone species before. These are species that have a inordinately large impact on the environment relative to their numbers. And the work that was done in the United States on woodpeckers is quite interesting because they're looking at woodpeckers as being keystone species, not because they're going out there and chopping down huge trees. But what happens is, because they're feeding on caterpillars and worms that are, and boring larvae that are, wood boring larvae, no larvae are boring, but they're feeding on these larvae that are in decaying wood. And because you get like a lot of fungal spores around those decaying points on the woodpeckers go there, they're gathering these spores around the beak, and then they go off and they start pecking at other trees. So they start spreading these spores from tree to tree. So it's not a bad thing, it's a brilliant thing, it's very, very good, it's healthy for the forest, creates diversity, but just shows these fungus have got multiple ways of actually spreading, and there's actually many of them, the theory is that they spread through, apart from wind dispersal, which is the very, very obvious one, but a lot of them actually end up on grass stems and leaf surfaces of plants, and then herbivores come along and they'll feed on them, and that actually passes through the digestive tract and then ends up coming out in this nice big pile of fertilizer, which is brilliant germination conditions for these little things. So anyway, that's a bird nest fungus with our little patch of Zen art around it. But yeah, I'm just going to spend a little bit more time with these meerkats and just see what they get up to.
Our boys are still, not doing very much. The necking has stopped. Giraffes in general are very gregarious. They're social. They love to be around other giraffes. But they don't really form any long-lasting bonds, shall we say. They have quite loose social structures and they form temporary bonds. They enjoy being in one another's company, but it's nothing permanent. Except mothers and calves, of course. That is a strong, permanent bond. And bachelors, like these two, we have two bachelors, tend to enjoy being around other bachelors or groups of bachelors. And that's what we've got here. Male giraffes generally establish dominance through necking. But it doesn't always have to be violent. In fact, quite often it's not really violent. And I think what's happening here, we have got different sized giraffes. So I think the bigger one is slightly older, and he definitely is more dominant, the one at the front. So that's why I think they're just tussling and wrestling here. They don't need to establish any hierarchy. I think between this pair, it's quite obvious that one is older. I didn't get that name, but I have never seen giraffes kick one another. They, of course, have a lot of coordination to do. They have a unique... Here. Was that the name, BK? BK's earpiece is broken too. We're not having a good day earpiece-wise. And I have never seen them kick. I have seen them kick off predators such as lions because they've got such a powerful kick, but a very unique way of walking. Their Latin name, camel... Oh, sorry, I thought I just heard something there. Nope. No, I didn't. My apologies. Yes, it's Giraffe camelopardalis, and that Latin name, the second part of the Latin name, means a camel-like. It actually means camel-like leopard. But the reason the camel part comes in is because they move two legs on the same side at the one time, just like a camel. And this helps them, coordinate their movement and not get all tangled up. They've got such long legs. You don't want your legs to all get tangled up and caught in one another and trip and fall. So it assists with balance as well. And therefore, if they were to use one leg to kick, they could really knock themselves off balance. It would be a wobbly moment if they're just going to take, let's just say, their back right leg to kick. Then they're going to leave themselves quite unstable. All the weight's going to be on the left side, and there's a high risk they could fall. So you don't really see giraffes kick one another for that reason. But if they have got a lion clinging on their back, which happens a lot in places like the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, lions will tackle giraffes, and they will try to use their legs to kick a smaller animal, but not each other. I think I'm going to try and get a little bit closer to our boys here. Ooh. And let's wait and see if they continue to nick.
So we decided to leave the 2 lionesses and their 5 youngsters to come in search of the rest of the pride, and probably about 2 or 3 kilometers north of where they were feeding on that wildebeest, we found the 1 adult lioness and the other, I can only see 3 of the youngsters for now, busy feeding on another wildebeest. So the ones that we're currently looking at the moment, the one in the middle is the adult female. The one to her right, so our left, is a young female. And then to the right of the one in the middle is her brother. And then behind us is, I'm not sure if it's another male or female. I can just see the rear end of it. But I wonder where the second adult female is and then the 4th youngster. So we assume, we're not 100% sure, but we think that the 4 youngsters, there's a bit of debate whether they belong to one of the females or 3 to 1 and 1 to the other, because they're all born around the same time. The females would stay together the whole time that the cubs are young, and there were a couple of cubs that were killed. I mean, we're not sure about what, and the one female did have 4 youngsters and the other female had, I think, 2, and so we're not 100% sure whether the one female lost both of her youngsters or if the one lost one and the other one lost the other. But we have noticed that there's another lion. I've just seen the flick of a tail behind the long grass. I wonder who that is. Just looking at the size of it, I think it's probably the 4th youngster. So maybe the second adult female is lying somewhere here in the long grass. And you'll notice that it's just picked its head up, and that's because the 4th sibling that was behind us is busy walking over to the wildebeest at the moment. But I think while we're going to sit and wait to see if they feed, we're going to head over to James, who I believe Tunde's just got up and started to move around.
Oh, there she is. I think she may have spotted something. Let's just get around in front of her. Go. Now, I don't know if you can hear that screaming call in the background. It's a Varroa's eagle owl, female or a juvenile. Let's try and just get a bit further in front of her. Oh, 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 oh. I was hoping she'd pop out there. She should pop out. There she is. Let me just get in here. She's now going behind us. Can you see her there, Doc? Just going to wait for her to go past. Okay, let's go now. Oof, that's going to make me lose my temper. Before I do that, let's go back to Jared and his lions.
So very fortunately, one of the youngsters came up and started to feed on this carcass at the moment. And it's really interesting because I was watching when this youngster was walking over to the carcass that the belly of this particular one was very, very full. And then the others that we saw lying underneath the tree was also very full. But then if you have a look at this wildebeest, you'll notice that there's still quite a lot of meat left on it. Obviously, I can't see the other side. I haven't looked at the other side yet. But just judging by the condition of the carcass at the moment and what we can see have been fed on, that these lions haven't fed on too much of this carcass. So I think that this was potentially a opportunistic kill. And lions do that. And maybe yesterday, because we had the tracks of these lions about 2 kilometers from where we are here yesterday. And so maybe they had fed on a carcass around that time, so a day or two ago, still very full bellies, just slowly moving throughout their territory, came into this open area where we are here, and they saw this adult wildebeest bull and thought, well, if it's a good opportunity to hunt, we might as well take it. And the reason why they would hunt even though they're full is because they don't know when their next meal is going to be, and there is no rush to feed, so they've killed it probably in the exact spot that they're busy feeding on at the moment. And I'm guessing it was probably last night, maybe early this morning, and they've only fed on it a little bit, which is quite normal with lions. Unfortunately, because it is a very large carcass, between the 5 of them that are here, the 1 adult and 4 youngsters, I'm sure they're going to be on here for a couple of days, particularly because they already do have full bellies. If they hadn't, and they hadn't fed for half a week or a week or so, I'm sure they would have gouged up most of this carcass already. Have a look at those claws. Absolutely incredible. It's what I love when lions are feeding, is to sit on the opposite end of the carcass that they're feeding, because often while they're feeding they put their claw up onto the hide just to get a little bit of a grip, and they will extend those long sharp claws out, and we can see 3 of those claws at the moment. And those long sharp claws are probably one of the most important hunting tools that they will have, particularly when trying to take down a large prey like this male wildebeest. Now I'm trying to have a look when looking over the body if I can see any claw marks of where they may have gripped onto when dragging him down. Travner lions are predominantly nocturnal, and the reason why they will move around at night time is that they will use the night to their advantage to hunt, and then because it's cooler when they walk to go off to hunt or to walk around their territory, to mark their territory, they won't therefore exert too much energy, whereas if it was in the daytime, just the heat of the day would cause them to exert more energy and they'll be more tired. That being said, lions do move around in the daytime, and I have seen lions moving around in the heat of the day in summer, but you will typically see them moving around more so at night than in the day. So you see this youngster's now decided to go feed around the rear end, and that's often the very first spot that lions will start to feed. And so the skin around the rear end, around the anus, is quite soft, and so very easily for them to open up the carcass. And then there's quite a lot of meat on the hind legs, so that's the area where the most protein is. So they want to open up the area which is the easiest to open up, but B, the area where there is the most meat. And they want to do that because they're never sure exactly how long they will feed on the carcass for. Sometimes, or most of the times, they're lucky, they can feed on the entire carcass themselves, but they may also be chased off by the males, and so to prevent that from happening, they'll eat as much as they can, as quickly as they can, and particularly the area where the most meat occurs. And then from there, they'll slowly start to open up in the rest of the carcass to find different pockets of meat. But you can also see as this lion pulls its head away from feeding, you'll notice that there's still quite a lot of blood on the snout and on the chin, and so that would indicate that this carcass is still fairly fresh.
Our males haven't moved. They're still half-heartedly clubbing one another. You can call it necking or clubbing. It's actually very sweet. Now, I remember in the Masai Mara, we actually found a pair of giraffes that had died from clubbing one another. We weren't quite sure if it was internal injuries or if they were swinging their necks with such force that they ended up breaking their necks and the necks got tangled. That actually is possible. It's a long-standing belief that giraffes have this massive heart. And their heart is bigger than ours, absolutely, but it's in terms of relative to its own body size. It's not out of proportion at all. It's the walls of the heart. Of each chamber of the heart, the walls are extra thick, far thicker than ours would be. And this is to deal with the pressure. So if you think of the immense pressure of the sort of that would build up in any sort of circulatory system for giraffes, imagine them bending down. They risk a huge head rush because they're said to have twice as much, well, their blood pressure is said to be twice as high as ours. So if they bend down in order to sort of eliminate getting that giant head rush that we would all get and pass out, they've got a few unique specializations in terms of their anatomy, and extra thick walls in the heart is definitely one of them. And they've also got a really specialized network of very, very small capillaries that help control the blood flow. So the blood flow doesn't rush to the head and the giraffe keels over. So the evolution of the giraffe's neck is very interesting. But it's not only the neck that has changed. There's specialized adaptations within the body that had to change to to accommodate that. If you think, a giraffe's brain sits about 5 meters above the ground, about 2 meters away from the heart. So the heart has got to pump blood a large distance in order to get the blood to the brain. A giraffe's heart is said to pump about 60 litres of blood every minute. Now, that's a lot. Buddy, you're getting a head rush just thinking about it. I know, it's baffling. It cannot be easy, and that's why the heart isn't excessively large relative to the giraffe's body size. That myth has long been debunked, but the walls are very, very thick, and that's why, to deal with the pressure, to stop any sort of head rush happening when the giraffe bend down, they do bend down. They bend down to eat. They bend down to drink at water holes, and as you can see, they bend down to club one another. Now, they wouldn't be able to do that if they got a head rush every single time. So the thick walls and a really, really specialized network of capillaries. And there'll be lots of specialized valves in there as well. It won't just be a network of capillaries. They'll have to have specialized valves to sort of dilate and constrict the blood flow. There must be very strong, powerful muscles on the underside to hold a neck like this up. And if you look carefully, there's a hump at the bottom of the neck. Can you see that, Beaky? Yes, a big, big hump. That's where the sort of bulk of that special nuchal ligament is. It's a huge ligament. It assists the giraffe in standing upright. Without it, it would mean all the muscles would have to do the hard work. So I think I may let our boys be and disappear into the thicket, but I believe Miss Tandy has reappeared out of the thicket.
She's just gone to sleep here. Well, rest, shall we say, on the sand. Now, as I've said... Ooh! You hear that? Huh? David, do you know what that is?
Nope.
Of an unfamiliar sound to you.
Yes.
It is the striped kingfisher. Very nice. Anyway, Tandy's come out onto the sand, and as I've said to many of you before, I find that sort of yellow-green vegetation combined with the colour of a leopard is not my favourite. I prefer them against the winter vegetation or the sand. I mean, I'll take whatever I can get, but I love the colour of the way that her colours juxtapose with the sand much more than I do with the sort of yellow-green vegetation in the background. Just way in the background, you can hear the Varroa's eagle owl still going. very, very regal this morning, is Tundi. She hasn't got a floppy-eared look. And maybe here she will rest for the day. Sarah, they do that, you know, the males, at least especially the youngsters and the females. Maybe it's a youngster calling for its parents. I don't know, it's a good question. They are nocturnal, they're not diurnal owls, but you do see them crepuscularly. I'm not sure this time of the day why they'd be calling. It does seem a bit strange. The perfect way to kind of finish off a morning like this. It's the ultimate relaxation and fulfillment, I suppose, as the sun hits our backs, the birds start to call their sort of mid-morning calls, and the leopard settles in the sand. Right, let's go back up to Ngala, where the playful lions are playing, I think. We think so, yeah. Okay.
So we're back at Ambient Pinner Private Game Reserve, not in Ngala, and the lioness has just finished feeding, decided to come lie in some shade. So the lioness on the right that is panting very heavily and has red all around her face is the one that was feeding, and then her sister on the left decided to come and join, and they were being affectionate with each other, but now they've decided to give that a little bit of a break. So you'll notice the female on the left's busy cleaning her paws, and that's often the part of their body that gets very dirty when feeding on a carcass, and so she's cleaning off any bit of blood or bits and pieces of meat that may have got caught in the fur on the claws. And then what she may do as well, she'll lick the side of her paw and then use that saliva that is on her top side of the paw to clean her cheeks. Looks like she's kind of doing that. She was cleaning her chin with her paw. And now the female on the right, she's giving herself a good scratch, but also busy cleaning off any bit of blood. But as I was mentioning earlier, I'm pretty sure that these lions killed something yesterday or finished feeding on something yesterday, because we drove around the wildebeest carcass now to get to these lionesses, and they've hardly fed on anything. Oh, one of the young males up. So he's slowly walking over. He's probably heard a little bit of movement between his sisters and wondered if they're playing and maybe wants to come and join in. So for some reason his belly doesn't look as full as theirs, but maybe that's just because they're busy lying down and the ground's helping the belly to bulge out. Yeah, here he comes. Oh. I think more so than playing, he was hoping that they would groom him. You could see how he rubbed his cheek up against that female, maybe hoping they would be a little bit affectionate with him. And now these two females are busy grooming each other, which is, grooming is a very important part of these lions' social bonding, because when they're around a carcass, they're fighting with each other, they're competing for what little meat is left, and this just reaffirms and rebuilds bonds that may have been not destroyed, but worsened around the carcass while feeding. But then it also gives themselves an opportunity to have their sibling clean them in areas where they are unable to clean themselves. Such beautiful contrasting colors at the moment. You've got the white belly of the lioness lying on her back, and the tawny coat of her sister on the right, and then the occasional color of blood all over. Ziki, no, unfortunately we do not have any white lions here on Phinda. That recessive gene has never, well, as far as we know, none of the lions on Phinda contains that recessive gene that those lions up in Ngala have. But maybe one day, you never know. Who knows what might happen, but no, we don't have any white lions here. And to be honest with you, Ziggy, I've never actually seen a white lion. So I get very jealous every time I watch my fellow colleagues at Ngala filming the white lions or watching the white lions, because it is one of the animals I am yet to see. I think white lions and black leopards are high up on my bucket list to see. Oh, she might be a little bit of a mud wallow in that direction, and there has been some water captured in the mud wallow. Oh, I thought she was about to defecate there. Yeah, there we go. She's just found a little spot to drink. Oof, that water must be so dirty though.
So these little guys are just still sitting relaxed at the burrows. I'm just actually following up on the direction that they came back from foraging last night. So they went out east, and then they actually came back up this route. And I think tomorrow morning it'll be quite fun and something different to actually walk around a little bit and actually show you some of the signs of how we know what they've been foraging on and where they've been going. And some of the holes that they're digging are actually quite deep now, which is interesting, and that's almost certainly after scorpions. And their tracks are tiny, and there's some little nocturnal bird tracks around here. They're a little bit more on the alert today, and I think it's just because of this breeze. You know, yesterday it was dead calm, and with this breeze now, there's from their height, which is really way down. Field of view is quite obscured, and it's got a lot of movement. Hadian has just asked a very, very good question there. What individual features, or what features, if any, do we use to identify individual meerkats? And to answer that, it's the same as many wild species that you're working with. Is the smaller the group, the easier it is to identify an individual. If you look at things like leopards, you'll use spot patterns, and you'll use known territory ranges, so the likelihood of encountering an individual in a particular area is greater, and then you use spot patterns. On meerkats, it becomes a little bit more challenging there. Just number one, they're very, very small animals, and secondly, there's like multiple individuals living in the same group. And if you take a pride of lions, you can get the same kind of problem there. If you've got a group of 10 lionesses, to identify individuals in that can actually become quite tricky. You can use spot patterns the same as leopards, but we look at the spot patterns around the muzzle on lionesses, so where the hair follicles on the whiskers come out, you actually get very, very distinctive spot patterns there. But what is even easier than that on the larger animals is things like scars. Nicks, tears, dents, dings, scratches, and very often those become super distinctive on lions. And spotted hyenas, brown hyenas, things like that, often on the ears, you see damage on the ears, and that makes it very easy to identify them. The one challenge with that is that can change over time. So if you get a brown hyena that's got a tear in its ear, well, that tear could become longer, or it could get another chunk taken out of it. So you normally use things in conjunction with other things. So you'd look at a spot pattern on a hyena, a brown hyena, stripe patterns on the legs, as well as scars, tears, and that kind of stuff. Meerkats becomes a lot more challenging just because of their size, and they're just less prone. I mean, they don't have these big ears that stick out, so their ears aren't, you're likely to be torn and scratched even in fights. But you do get individuals where you've got a kink in the tail, or a damaged leg, or a scar. So we do see things like that. The advantage that we've got here with these group, with our habituators like Veronique that has spent so much time with them, she actually gets to know the individuals. And because these groups are relatively small, there's only 6, it becomes relatively easy to say, okay, well, there's a dominant female, there's a sub-adult male, sub-adult female, and it becomes quite easy. I'm just going to stay and spend more time over here. They pop down and up and down, and I'm quite interested as to what's actually going on here. So I'm just going to spend a lot more time here now.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
There we have got Tundi. And what she's doing is eyeing out, oh, there's a hyena as well. She's eyeing out some impala who have not bothered to alarm call at the hyena. It's a very fat hyena, and it's across the way. I don't know, can you see it there, Darth? No. No, you won't see it.
Wait, maybe. Or is it not?
It's there, yeah. It's just behind that bush there. There we are. They have no idea that Tundi's here. They're all a good sort of 80 meters from her. She's just resting up in the shade here, waiting to see if they come closer. That is a very fat hyena. Tundi is paying absolutely no heed. She's watching the impala. Probably now irritated because the hyena has chased the impala further away from her. So it's interesting there that the impala don't alarm call at the hyena. And again, that's not because they're unafraid of hyenas. It's because they are not afraid of a hyena if they can see it, because they know how fast it is, and they also know that if it decides to chase, it's just going to chase. They don't hide. They're not sort of stalking predators. Whereas if they see a lion or a leopard, they'll make a huge noise because they know, they want the leopard or lion to know that they've been seen, and that they should therefore move away. Just looking at a raptor flying by. Annie Jane, you say it's very sneaky. Well, it's very leopardish. A tawny eagle flying overhead. Can you see it there, Dom? always think that the cameraman's hearts sink to their toes when we say, oh, look at that interesting bird. Because it's not easy to find and then film a bird effectively. Well done, David. That was a very nice tawny eagle segment. We are parked on something of a slope. So if I depress the clutch now, we will plummet into the ravine. Look how invisible Tundi is just about. I don't think she's going to hunt these impala just yet. It seems that the lions at Pindar are doing quite a lot of moving around today, so let's go and catch up with them.
So we followed the lioness maybe about 200-300 meters from where we had them earlier, and we were able to find the second adult lioness, but they're in the thicket, so we've come back to see what the rest of the pride are up to. And it seems that we got her just in time as she came to drink this very dirty and muddy water, but now she's looking in the direction of where her sisters moved off to. So I wonder if she's not going to try follow. I hope she doesn't take the route that she's got in front of her, because she's going to get really muddy. There's quite a lot of mud in front of her, so she's going to try and carefully maneuver around this fallen over tree as not to get too dirty. Wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, but she did manage to avoid getting full of mud. So I'm not sure she knows exactly where her sister went to. You can see she's looking in a few different directions. She can probably smell her. The wind is blowing from right to left, so it's blowing from the direction where her sister just moved off to. But like I said, she's a couple hundred meters from where we are here, where she managed to find the other lioness. And I was following her because I was hoping that maybe there was another kill in the area. As I mentioned earlier, their bellies are full, and this carcass that they were feeding on, they've hardly fed on it, so they have fed on something else. So I thought maybe she was moving to an older carcass. Apologies about that. I'm just going to get back to Clive. Go ahead, Clive.
Have moved out, hey?
No, negative. I just followed the one lioness. She located the second adult female. I'm back now with the rest of the pride.
So we were just about to put it.
Copy, will do. Oh, they've just spotted something. I wonder what's just caught their attention. You see how she changed direction completely, lifted her head up, and has moved quite quickly that way. There was a herd of zebra in the distance here earlier. I'm just going to quickly reposition everyone. We're going to lose visual of her behind this thicket, but we should be able to see what they're looking at now. There's a really big open area up ahead, so fortunately we won't lose them. Should be able to see what they're looking at. Oh. All in the same direction, but I didn't hear anything. Maybe they heard an alarm call of another animal off in that direction. I can't see anything in that direction. And while we go, I do apologize for the breakup. We had some signal issues there, but we should be fine now. So while I have a look at what these lionesses are busy looking at, I'm just going to ask Marcel to quickly show you how little of this wildebeest they have fed on. And now you'll be able to see exactly why I was saying that they've definitely fed on something else. And they've only really eaten the rear end of this wildebeest. And you'll see on the white there where there's a big white patch. That is because the lioness that was feeding earlier managed to pull away some of the skin, and that's the fat just below the skin. She obviously found that a little bit too difficult to open up, so that she came to rather eat in the rear end. Now I have been looking, and I don't think that these lions killed this wildebeest. The wildebeest eyes are closed. Often when they end up being killed by predators, their eyes often stay open. And I don't see any claw marks down the side of the body, around the neck and the snout. I don't see teeth marks where generally you'll find the lionesses will bite down to try and suffocate the wildebeest either by the snout or by the neck. The only other thing that you'll see, there's quite a lot of ticks still on the wildebeest, and as this carcass starts to get older, the ticks will start to leave the carcass and move off. So either I just can't see the evidence that these lions killed this wildebeest themselves, or it must have died naturally and soon after that these lions managed to find it. There's a bit of water behind us as we saw the lioness drinking just now. Maybe they were heading off to there. And I'm also looking around here. I don't see any evidence of struggle on the ground, kicking from the wildebeest. And the grass here is quite short and there is some wildebeest dung there. So this does look like an area where this wildebeest has probably been feeding. And maybe unfortunately for him, died naturally. Or maybe fortunately for him, it's probably much better to die naturally as opposed to by lions. Alright, while I sit and wait, these lionesses are starting to relax. They're not really looking off into the distance anymore. So I think that maybe whatever they thought they saw has moved on. So I believe we've got a beautiful bird party for all you bird lovers out there to show you.
We actually have some very unique birds for you. It's not often that we manage to get them on camera because they're so flighty. We have the red-faced mouse birds. Oh. Very flighty. There you go, Beaks. Yep. Oh, wait, that's a different bird. Hold on. Where have the mouse birds gone? I think that's one there, BK, on the right side. It's very difficult to see. I'm pretty sure they've got a red mask on. We do also get the speckles out here as well. And they're quite unique with their tuft of feathers on top of their head. But they just do not stay still for the camera. Maybe we've got a collection here. There's some more behind. I'm considering reversing. Emma can let me know if this one's got a red face on my screen. I'm not able to pick that out. Gorgeous birds, always found in large groups. You will never really find one red-faced. And they're mainly fruit feeders. Got a small pointy beak for picking up fruit, leaves, and sometimes nectar. Kiki, you're saying, so pretty. Completely agree. I actually think we've got a mixed of mouse birds here. Because the ones that we were looking at originally, before they decided to fly off, definitely had the red mask on. But this one doesn't look like it does have the red mask on. We do get the speckled. I want to try and see if I can find one with the mask for you, because it's such a striking, beautiful red. It actually looks like one of the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, or whatever they were called, with their colourful masks. Good old Leonardo and Donatello. Yes, I used to watch that when I was a youngster. Okay, BK, I'm going to reverse. I think I can see one with the red mask on. Oh. And there we go. I think I possibly ruined that moment, everyone. But let us see if we can just get a view of that red mask for you. I can see two, BK. Let's try We're at One-Eyed Pan and Simbambili, and you always find the red masks here. No, these must be the speckled. The red mask ones have flown off, I'm afraid. They're very easy to identify, these birds, with that sort of crown of feathers. And they have a really, really long, straight, rigid tail. The red-faced and the speckled are actually all common residents. So they're not unusual. They're not a rare find. They're not endangered. It's just that they're really, really not easy to put on camera. But this is one of the best pans in the area for birds. Okay, so we're going to bumble back into Djuma, get ready for breakfast, but we are going to send you back across to Jared with his lions.
Oh, perfect timing as the lioness stands up. So the young lioness is still very interested in something behind us. Oh, she's got a bit of a limp. I wonder what's wrong. It's not unusual for lions to limp. When they're hunting, they could stand on a thorn. Even just when walking, they might stand on a thorn, which would cause quite a bit of pain for them. And we haven't seen her limping in the past, so it is a recent injury, but I'm not too concerned. Like I said, it is quite normal to see lions limping. So you'll notice at this stage it's actually very easy to be able to tell the difference between the males and females. At about 1.5 years, the males, or particularly in this pride, have quite a bit of mane already. So this female that's watching us, you'll see there's no mane below her chin or on her chest, and no mohawk, where the male that's lying off to her left, you'll see quite a bit of mane already on his chest. But what a lovely day we've had. We've had quite a few cats, we've had lions, we've had meerkats, lion cubs. And to end off with one of my favorite animals, lions is not a bad way to end the day off. Eric, whose birthday it was today, if you're still watching, I hope that you have enjoyed your birthday show. And that all these lions have given you a nice little treat for your day. So I do think that this pride of lions is just going to sit here for the rest of the day. I can't imagine they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. There's some water behind them. They've got something to feed off to their right. So I sit and watch them to see what they do. We are going to say goodbye to all of you watching. It is unfortunately the end of our morning show, and I look forward to seeing you all this afternoon at the sunset show. Have a good day, everyone.